Hello, Reese. This is past Nicholas speaking to you from 13 minutes to 9 on the 4th of March 2015. Really quickly gonna show you how to build a space plane. First of all, start with cockpit. I like using that one for space planes because it's small and it's light. Mark 1 liquid fuel fuselage, followed by 2 structural fuselages, and then the basic jet engine. You can use the turbojet engine if you so wish, but I wouldn't recommend it because that's for sort of high altitude stuff. Anyway, I digress. Center of mass, center of lift. Now I've clicked the center of lift button, but it hasn't come up. That's because there are no wings attached to the aircraft. Until we do such a thing, can it be called an aircraft? So, you always want your center of lift behind your center of mass. However, the further back your center of lift, the more like a dart it becomes and the less maneuverable it is. So you want to have it set up in such a way so that it's very close. You can move the fuel about. Now what I would recommend doing is taking your fuel all the way to 0 and putting your center of lift in line with that, because then you are guaranteed to be stable the entire time. However, now that we've done that, I now need to add control surfaces. I'm not sure if these are modded or not. I really can't remember, but you'll have your own equivalent. So now what that will do is that will move the center of lift rearwards, so it's even further back now, as we can see just there. So what we do is wait until we have attached all control surfaces. A vertical stabilizer, double that, unlock it, spin it around a touch, a bit more, so you want that about 90 degrees. Now we can see our centre of lift has moved very far back. Same again, we take the wings, lock them, and position them there. Presto. Actually we'll move it a little bit further back for demonstration purposes. Moving back to there. So see how far back the centre of lift is from the centre of mass. And that's going to come into play when I actually get off the ground. Next we want a small landing gear. Only one. And make sure it's in line. Put those as far back as possible without putting them on the fuselage. I simply don't like putting them on the fuselage because it gives it a wider track and less likely to, fall off and over. Last thing, we need a couple of the radial air intakes. Position those. It don't really matter. I'll put mine there. That's it. That's a plane built. So launch this really quick. I'll show you how moving the centre of lift in relation to the centre of mass changes. Right. Oh wait, I did forget something. Return to Spaceplane. What I would also recommend doing is setting whatever you're using as your vertical stabilizer, set that to do yaw only. So just right click and make pitch and roll inactive. Also go to the elevators and set them to do pitch only, because if you try to roll with something that's not elevators, it will send the aircraft out of control. The ailerons, however, they're fine to do pitch as well, doesn't really matter. But anyway, there's the runway. That's for the brakes. So then we can see when you use W and S, the elevators and the ailerons rotate. However, when you use Q and E for roll, turn that off. And use Q and E for roll, the ailerons work. And use A and D for yaw, only the vertical stabilizer works. Anyway, full throttle, turn the engine on, and go. So remember, our centre of lift is very far back from our centre of mass. So it's struggling to nose up. That's full tilt on the pitch. And we're getting 2 Gs. If I was to let it go, it will fly relatively straight. Just to also, quick note, if you press the Alt key and W, see how it's moving up? you can trim the aircraft, so now it will slice dead straight. As I said, yep, 2 Gs. Can't really throw this aircraft about. It's not that manoeuvrable. So let's move the centre of lift a bit further forward, and the centre of mass a bit further back. First thing we can do is reduce the amount of fuel in the tank, lighten the load a little bit, take hold of the wings, lock them to the angles, and move them forward. Let the ball just inside. So, now remember, we was getting 2 Gs on the aircraft before with the centre of lift behind, very far behind the centre of mass. Brakes on. Engine to full throttle, engine engage. You will see it will just take it away with it. I'll just do that to allow the engine to get a bit more thrust up. There we go. Immediate improvement. Is that 6 Gs? 6 Gs already. We can just throw this about the sky. When we release T, we see it drops much quicker. Again, you can just use W and S, Alt and S to trim the nose up a touch. We could have done this in the other aircraft. Tail drag. So yes, say this again, but look. That one peaked out at about 7-8 Gs. But anyway, so what happens if you move the centre of mass behind the centre of lift? And we'll go a little bit and then we'll go a lot. So first of all, I'm going to take these, move them slightly further forward. Move the wings even further forward. However, we are now encountering a problem whereby the wheels are going to be further forward than the centre of mass, and the aircraft will just sit on its tail. So I'll change it into a tail dragger when I get a moment. Okay, so centre of lift is slightly in front of centre of mass. Brakes on, you need to full throttle, turn on, turn off the brakes, immediate lift off. However, now, about the same, 7-8 Gs. So you get a bit of speed up first. So pull up, all 9 Gs. Peaked about 8-9 Gs, 7 or 8 even. You see the aircraft is a lot more responsive. However, that's because I have SAS on. SAS will double check every single control pattern I use. Turn that off. Aircraft just wants to lift itself. You try and lift it. It will try and flip itself around, but not quite. Very manoeuvrable though. So what happens if you move it really far in front? Centre of mass, centre of lift. Snap that. Drop the fuel down even further to move that back. Convert this to a tail dragger. Actually, if I put these put that there, and 2 small ones at the back. Any temporary fix? Fine, there it is. I'll get a new set. Probably messed up the rotation on them. You know what? That'll do. So now we have the centre of lift very far in front of centre of mass. Brakes acting up. Oh, I think. Yeah, it's pretty much uncontrollable. Trying to. Nope. Yeah. So, basic how to want to build aircraft. A couple of things I will point out. If I just bring that into a more suitable configuration. Try and keep your control surfaces as far away from your centre of mass as possible, because centre of mass is the point at which the aircraft will rotate around. So the further away you have it, the more leverage you have, the faster you can turn. And keep your centre of mass between the two contact points between the wheels, because then that way your aircraft will not do something. I'm being silly, but the aircraft will not do something like this. Wait for it to load. But sitting right on the engine, because if you try and take off like this, bad things happen. Alternatively, it will just take off, but should end up doing that. Definitely an accident. Didn't do that on purpose to prove a point. Which then inevitably leads to sort of going off into a direction. And being that I'm now under no control. Oh, they survived. Right, that's enough from past me.